Hi there and welcome to this tutorial. I've really been looking forward to painting this particular car, a classic British Mini. I've got nothing against the new Mini, but they don't quite have the aura of the old one to me. So I'm going to work in ink so you can see it better, but you might want to work in pencil. And anytime you like, stop the film, pause it until you're ready for the next bit. So if you've got your piece of paper, let's begin. Now start with the near side headlight, okay? You want to be slightly to the right of the center of the page. And remember you're drawing an oval, not quite a circle, okay? Make the oval of the headlight itself first. This should be thinner than its height, okay? It should be less wide than its high. Then do a little semicircle to the left and another slightly wider semicircle as well. And you've got the headlight and its surrounds. So underneath, we're going to draw the smaller light. Now this is slightly to the left of center, and you can see it's much smaller than our headlight. And like the headlight, a little semicircle joining it to the left. Now this is the start of the radiator grille. Now what you want to do is draw a diagonal line which doesn't quite touch the bottom of the bottom side of the headlight down to the center of the smaller light, and then just curve it round to the horizontal underneath that. Now do another line very similar to the one you've just made, but inside it, but this should have a curve which actually curves down, tapers down to touch the one you've just made. And then just a small line from towards the top of the headlight curving down to touch the radiator grille. That's the edge of the bonnet, or hood if you prefer. Now that's one of the bumper posts which I've just drawn in there. Can you see it starts pretty much directly underneath the top of the radiator you've just drawn? If you make the shape which connects with the radiator first, it's almost like a backwards D, although slanting a little, and then like a long, thin, blunt-ended triangle pointing down from there. Now we're going to make the lines of the bumper and the bottom of the radiator. Now the line of the bumper itself, if you actually start it directly underneath the small light and make a pretty straight line, very gently sloping up to the right, about as far as I've gone. If you think twice the distance from one side of the headlight to the other, that's about as far as you should take the line, and that'll take you to the center of the radiator. Now just above the bumper line you've just drawn, can you draw a very gently curving line, curving up and slightly away from the bumper, because that's going to be the bottom of the radiator grille. Now if you go back to the bumper line, push it to the left just past the bottom of the bottom light, and then curve it up very, very slightly towards the left. Okay, now above the bumper post which we made, can you do another even thinner oval? And that's going to be the light inside the radiator grille. Again, a little semicircle to the left to make the chrome surround. We're going to push the bumper line a bit further now. Now, we're not going to quite double its distance because this bit is further away from the viewer. So from where you ended the bumper last time, can you draw another line, but this one should slant up more to the right. Not a huge amount, but noticeably so. Not quite going as far as the distance you've already gone. If you look carefully at the screen, that'll give you an idea. Now we draw the second light inside the radiator, and the right hand side of this shouldn't be quite as far as the end of the bumper you drew last time. Now this should be a slightly smaller oval than the other light on the other side of the radiator, and even thinner. And again, don't forget the little semicircle for the light surround. Now go back to the bumper, and I want you to draw like a backwards capital C, and that's going to join the bottom edge of the bumper there. Okay. Now, excuse me, we start the other bumper post from the top edge of the bumper there. Just draw it up to a place where it's not quite level with the top of the light on the right. Okay, and then I want you to gently curve a line from the top of that to just above the level of the light next to it. Draw another line alongside it, and that will make the chrome surround. Now go back to the bottom of the bumper. You remember we drew the backwards C last time. Well, from the bottom of that, I want you to draw a line which is parallel to the top line of the bumper all the way to the bumper post. When we've done that, you can carry it on after the bumper post and then join it up with another C, but this time the right way round to the top of the bumper once you're past the level of the headlight. Okay, so now we just need to draw two slightly curving lines going up and joining the radiator grille and the two lines which make the trim of the radiator grille. We will do the bottom of the bumper now. So if you imagine, if you've got a pencil, if you're working in pencil, you can actually just extend the bumper line through the bumper post and round like a hook on its side from the bottom of the bumper, and then curve it back round to join the top of the bumper. Then you can just rub out what's inside the post and go over the lines of the post again. Can you also see that on the top of the right hand bumper post, I've just drawn a little semicircle light with, I've just drawn an oval light with a little semicircle again to the left for the surround. Now have a go at that. Now go to the center of your radiator grille. There's like a little black box, a little black cutout in the radiator grille, which I've actually shaded in. So you could have a go at that, and then have a look where the bumper post joins, or where the top line of the bumper on the right joins the bumper post. You want to draw a slightly curving line coming upwards from there, curving to the right, and it should end at about the same height as the top of the right hand light in the radiator. They should be on about a level. So now we draw in the second headlight. Now the light itself, so that's the inner oval, that's not going to touch the line we just drew last time. It's going to be a bit above that. It's not going to be quite as tall as the left hand headlight, and the oval should be that much thinner again as well, because it is that much further away from the viewer. So draw a semicircle around from the top to the bottom on the left, and then a bigger, wider semicircle around that, and you've got the surround of the headlights. And we're also doing very well on the front of the car. I always like to do I think of it as the face of the car first. I think if you get that right, you're probably onto a winner. So little lines now. Can you see where the right hand edge of the radiator grille joins the top edge? Just come slightly to the left and do like a very gently curving line to just close to the top of the headlight on the right, and really increase the curve towards the top. Now look at the radiator. Remember where we drew that little black box, that black cutout? Well, I want you to go above the two lines of the radiator trim and then just draw that little shape, which is the badge, and then a curve coming towards up and coming towards the left as far as about halfway from the center of the radiator grille to the top corner on the right, and it should be noticeably above the top line of the left hand headlight. Okay. Now we're going to join up the little line you made curving slightly to the left from the edge of the radiator grille. Join that up with the curving line you made from the center, and that bonnet line is really taking shape now. Now from that line you just drew, can you come down it a little bit till you're just above the left hand edge of the badge, and then from there draw a line down to the top of the right hand headlight. Okay, now we're really going to have to use our eyesight and guesstimate as well as we possibly can. I actually made a mistake when I sat back and looked at it. I realized I hadn't done it quite steep enough, and that's why you can see two lines have just appeared. Now I want you to go from the top of the right hand headlight, and you're going to curve round and back, very gently curve to the left. Now you're only going to end up slightly higher than you started, but you're going to go back quite a distance. If you look at the distance between the two lights in the radiator grille, that's about the distance you want to come back, maybe even a little bit more than that. And it should be noticeably curving upwards, even though you're not going up that much higher. Ideally, this line which you're going to draw should be slightly higher than the line which comes up from the center of the bonnet. How did you get on with that? If you took a bit of time and trouble with it, I think you'd have been okay. And we're really getting on now with the face of the car. So I want you to draw a line from the left hand end of the line you just drew, and this should curve slightly downwards to the left, and then for about twice as much downwards to the right. It should end on a level which is just above the bottom of the left hand headlight. Now from here you're going to draw that nice curve round to the bottom of the bumper, and then another one just like it, the same curve but just inside. Okay, take your time, look carefully at the screen, at the line on the screen you're trying to replicate. Have 2 or 3 goes at it if you need to. As long as you're working in pencil, that really shouldn't be a problem. But if you get this wheel arch right, or close to right, we'll be doing really well. So I want you to extend that curve pretty steeply back down to the left now, but don't go quite as far, as the height of the bottom of the bumper, of the top of the bumper, sorry. And then just draw a line which curves round at first and then down slightly, very slightly to the left from the top, just to join it up there. Now we're going to make the windscreen. So curve from the center of the bonnet to the junction between the 3 lines you just made, and then do another line just on top of that which curves round, but before you get to the upright line on the left, curve it round and slightly upwards, because that's where the windscreen or windshield is going to end. Again, look closely at the picture and try and replicate what you see. Look where things end. Look how high things are. If you like, put little dots where you want the lines to start and where you want the lines to end to help you join them up, because you won't do a lot of damage if you put a dot on your paper and think, no, that's not quite far enough, I'm going to put it a little bit further over, or vice versa. Also, can you see I have by now drawn the number plate, the license plate, below the bumper. I go from just inside to the right of the left-hand bumper post, making a line just underneath the bottom line of the bumper to just inside the right-hand bumper post. Okay, 2 lines downwards, both slanting slightly to the left. The one on the right should slant a little bit more steeply than the one on the left, and then draw them up, join them up with the line at the bottom. So on the far left, if we take that line up to form the pillar at the left-hand edge of the windscreen, and then parallel lines to form the rubber seal of the windscreen, which have just curved round at the top there. If you can do that, we're really not far off finishing the face of the vehicle. So start off by curving round and downwards and joining up the windscreen. These will make the rubber seals, the black rubber seals of the windscreen, and then a slightly straighter line coming downwards just above it, which is where the roof starts. And the face of the car is there, and you can see it's clearly a Mini. Now we have to start drawing the wheels in. When I paint this, I'm going to try and have the wheels melting into the background slightly, but we still need some curves. So if you put a dot just inside the bottom left-hand edge of the wheel arch, now put a dot underneath the top center of the wheel arch with a slightly wider gap, and then join it up with a curve. Take the curve closer to the wheel arch as it comes down to the bottom of the wheel arch. Now extend your curve, go back to the bottom of the curve that you just made, you started with on the left, and this time bend it round underneath the bottom of the car and stop when you're about half. Look at the distance between the bottom of the wheel arch and the top, and about half that distance is how far down and round you want to take this curve. And then in the middle you want another oval. Mine's not perfect, but it doesn't matter. Now the oval should come closer to the semicircle of tyre you've drawn at the side on the left than it does at the top. And then that's enough. That's enough to be going on for the wheel. Now we're going to add the body panels now. Now I want you to try and draw an imaginary line with your eye, or you could even use your pencil. If you look at the license plate, the number plate, and I want you to extend the bottom line of the license plate down as far as it's underneath the hubcap. Then I want you to draw an imaginary line from the center of the hubcap to where it touches the line you've just drawn. Then extend that line backwards, and that's going to be the line of the bottom of the car. Now, we're also going to draw in the door panel now. Now, can you take the line, which is the left hand edge of the bonnet curving down towards the headlight. Now I want you to extend this line, go very faintly. Now how far you should go, as you'll see, I actually got it wrong. I've gone a little bit too far. Ideally, if you take your fingers and with your fingers measure the distance from the bottom end edge of the wheel arch across to the front bumper, that's about the distance that you want this line to go. Now curve it gently round down to the left and then do a straight line down to the line which makes the bottom of the car. Don't panic too much about what it looks like. As I say, I didn't realise, but I'd got it wrong. I'd taken it too far. It doesn't matter. Now we're going to carry on with that bottom line now. Push it, just extend it to the left, or make it darker as far as if you've gone a lot further to the left. Now you only want to come in a relatively short distance. It's about the distance from the left hand side of the left headlight to the right hand side. That's the center bit of it. And now you draw the wheel arch kind of like a slanting upside down J, but don't bring it back down to the bottom line. Just take it down to about halfway down, and it should be a lot thinner than the front wheel arch. Now extend the line from the top of the door down to the point where it's just past the middle of the back wheel arch, and then draw a curving line down to where you ended the wheel arch there. Now we're going to start drawing the windows in. Now what you do, look where the top corner of the windshield, the windscreen. And this is where you're going to start. Now from the pillar next to it, curve it around slightly, and then it should be slanting downwards to the right, sorry, to the left, not as far as the edge of the door though. It should be quite a little bit in from that. And then you want a straight line going down to the left, which joins up at the top of the door. If you can see, I've done. Now I pushed it too far, so I actually used it as the start of the next window, so I could shorten this window a bit. Now can you see the shape of the back window which I've just drawn in? It's almost like a rectangle, except that it slants up quite steeply to the corner on the top right. Now this should be slightly lower than the top left corner of the front window, and it should slant down more steeply. Now draw another line alongside the left hand edge, which goes down to meet the bodywork. And there you are. You've done a lot of the hard work of fleshing out the body of this Mini. Now this was the stage where I realized I got the proportions wrong, and I tried to do a lot of remedial work, which you can see with the dark ink then. Don't worry. The paint, the colour, will hide a multitude of sins. So I want you to draw a slightly curving line up and to the right from just above and just behind the back window all the way to meet with the top of the pillar by the windscreen, and it should end higher than the top of the windscreen. Can you also see there's a little line dividing the front window into two? That should have a similar slant to the middle window pillar, down to the left and fairly straight. Now we're going to do the roof. Now the highest point of your curving roof should be just above the left-hand edge of the windscreen. From there it should curve nicely and gently down to just before the back of the car. Now if you like, put a little dot before you start to show you how high it should go. And put a couple of dots along the length of it to get an idea of the feel of it. But when you're happy, then lightly sketch that in. We're so nearly done with the sketching now, folks. Now with the wheel, I would do the oval first of the hubcap in the middle. This should be the middle of the oval should be roughly on the same height as the bottom of the car. It should be quite a bit thinner than it is tall, maybe twice as thin as it is tall. And then when you've done that, you can just sketch the outside of the wheel. Remember, use semicircles because you want the bottom of the tyre pretty flat, and about halfway along the bottom of the car between the back wheel arch and where the door is, that's where you want to curve the tyre back down and round. And that's all the sketching we need to do for now. Anything else we need to sketch in, we'll do as we're applying colour. So first layer of colour, normally I just start with watercolour. But what I have done is I've used brush pens because this Mini is going to have the iconic Union Jack roof. And also there are going to be white stripes on the bonnet. Now I used the red brush pen to outline the red edge of the stripes. So it's the middle of the bonnet which is going to be red, and the stripes go from there to the end of the bonnet. I know using a brush pen I can kind of pretty much obliterate those marks when I apply the watercolour. Tyres, when I did the Rover last time out, I loved the effect of using the blue and the purple on the tyres. It was only meant to be a start, but I liked it so much I kept it. So I've used blue, a very light watery blue in the wheel arch, a light watery purple inside the tyre, and allowed those to bleed together, and some grey as well, which you can see on the front tyre, and particularly on the front tyre on the right, which we only see on the underside of the car. I let the blue and the purple mingle a bit and spread it underneath the front of the car, and also a very, very watery grey just underneath the bottom edge of the car. I also did splattering here. I didn't do a lot of splatter on this particular painting, but I splattered the blue and the purple and the grey. Do that if you haven't done it before. Charge your brush with paint, hold another brush and tap the brush with the paint onto it, which will create the splatter and give you a little bit of control over where it goes. So this was watercolour now. I applied the red. We've kissed in some of the areas on the door, and you can actually see how that's blushed out quite nicely. Don't panic if you get an effect like this. Actually, it can look pretty good, but let it go because it'll look different once you apply more layers on it. A very light blue, for the interiors, on top of which I put a darker level of blue and also added some purple where the rear window starts. You can see that kind of ugly blush there. Don't panic if you get something like this. There's plenty of ways you can work on it. You can also see how the red lines I made with the brush pen to outline the white stripes are just bleeding into the watercolor red there as well. And that's a huge difference because now I've taken out my brush pen and put away the watercolors for now. So if you look on the interior, I've outlined in a 0.1mm fine liner where the seals of the windows actually are, and then I used my brush pen black. First of all, I applied it to the dark areas you can see on the rear and front wheel arch, and then used a water brush to pick up some of the colour, and this is where the grey in the interior has come from. I think that's about all I did here. As I say, black brush pen to work on the details and darkening. Now I've taken out my red brush pen and I've worked on areas of the side of the bodywork, applying it to the darker areas to try and get that highlight effect on the paint. I've also done quite a bit of work around and underneath the headlights as well. I took the blue brush pen and just painted in the rest of the Union Jack on the roof. And also we've drawn in the, using a small black fine liner, we've drawn in the steering wheel. And already you can see I haven't done a huge amount in this last stage, and yet it's starting to look a hell of a lot less messy than it did. I also picked up from the darkest areas where I used the black brush pen, I lightly brushed the water brush over it and then used that to apply grey to the centre of the radiator and also to the top half of both headlights. Okay, more darkening now. I've used a brown brush pen as well for darker areas of shadow on the bodywork. Did some more work darkening the tyres. It's all just really refining from now on. Now the big difference here, if you're not sure, is first of all I used a 0.1mm fine liner to go around the rubber seal of the windscreen, and I've also, did you notice I've also drawn in the windscreen wipers there. And here, if you look at the wheels, I've drawn in some of the details on the hubcaps, but also I've used just a little hatching on the wheels because I don't want to lose the purple and grey colours that I've got there. Also on the headlights, I've applied the details and just started work on filling in the radiator grille. And there we are. That's pretty much the last stage. So drawing in the radiator grille using a 0.1mm fine liner. I used an even smaller one to draw the numbers on the number plate, and I filled in the gaps between them. I took the black brush pen again and just applied some more darker areas underneath the front wheel, and going backwards from that, and I also spread the dark areas underneath the wheel arch. And that's it, ladies and gents. So I hope you really enjoyed it. If you have a go at it yourself, I'd love it if you came to my blog. You can see the blog address there, and posted a picture of what you've done. That's all for now. I'll see you in the next time.